Just to say, first of all, this is the first time I've ever presented alongside a client, and I'm absolutely delighted I'm here with Nathan today. And I feel that, following on from what Tim said, so much of what you've heard today around the challenges of optimization, around the maturity, about people, about skills, about creativity, so much of that is going to be kind of covered and talked about over the next 30 minutes or so. And I'm actually going to be taking a bit of a back seat because I'd much rather you hear this directly from Nathan for the most part, because this is the last 12 months. It's a journey. It's a very unique experience that we've had. So I'm really looking forward to explaining how Suntransfers have gone from basic, simple A/B testing through to what is much more now around kind of optimizing their business. So I'll let Nathan just introduce himself first, if that's all right.
Hi, as Paul said, my name's Nathan. I'm from a company called Suntransfers, which I'm pretty sure most of you won't have heard of. We specialise in airport transfers. So if you go on holiday and you don't take a package holiday, you might want to book a coach transfer or a private taxi. So that's what we do. We're based in Barcelona, which is currently in Catalonia, although it might have changed today. I'm not quite sure. But we're based in Barcelona. We obviously I'm British, so we work with a large chunk of British agencies as well. And my sort of experience is in the travel industry, in performance marketing. So obviously, one of the challenges when I got into this new role was the fact that our conversion rate was in a bit of a state, and I'd have to find a new specialism to try and fix that. So that's where PRWD came into play, and that's what we'll talk about shortly.
Great, cheers. So yeah, it started all around optimizing Suntransfers.com. Just a little bit more about ourselves at PRWD agency. We're about 13 years old, based in Manchester. Absolutely, extremely privileged that we can put this slide up. These are the businesses that we've been working with in UX, research, and optimization and growth over the last 10, 12 years. And so yeah, and it's been fascinating working with these businesses, understanding the different levels of maturity that businesses are at, and specifically around mindset, which has been a term used quite regularly today. Like, what kind of mindset does your business have? Is it experimental? Is it customer-centric? Across this full spectrum of businesses here, there is literally businesses from complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And thankfully, Suntransfers are here with Nathan as very much one of the kind of very strategic and transformative businesses in this space. So what we'll be going through today, I'm just going to do a little bit of scene setting. I mentioned that Nathan will be doing more of the talking and bringing the whole story to life of Suntransfers. I'm just going to set the scene about why conversion optimization's value is so often limited within businesses. And then the kind of CRO Lightbulb moment, which for me happened around 4 years ago, which was the start of us developing our maturity model, which we're going to be talking about for the duration of this talk. And you'll have an opportunity, if you like, at the end of this talk, to actually get your hands, get your own copy of the maturity model, which is fundamental to this whole talk and the journey that we're on. But then the rest of the talk from kind of 3, 4, and 5 is going to be about the Suntransfers journey, where they were September 2016, what we've done in a partnership sense, the kind of agency-client relationship over 12 months, and then where Suntransfers are as of September, October 2017. So it's kind of bang up to date from a kind of a case study point of view. So first of all, what is conversion optimization? The kind of classic definition, Jeffrey and Brian obviously were the pioneers originally. So we know that it's about effectively getting more people to take action, more people from A to B, more people to buy or convert, whatever the conversion metric is for our business. So that's great, and that's kind of the general basic understanding of conversion optimization. But there's reasons why the value of conversion optimization, on a broader sense, there's reasons why the value of it is so often limited. And just as I bring these up, what I'd like to do is, if you can kind of relate to any of these within your business, there's quite a few of them on now, so maybe wait till they've all come on. I'd just like you to just put your hand up if you, within your business, or if you work in agency side, if you think about, say, one of your biggest, most prestigious clients, put your hand up if you can relate to like one or more of these. Yeah, I thought that'd be the case. I think for those of you that didn't put your hand up, not through not wanting to join in, but genuinely you know within your business none of these exist, then you're the kind of business that that I'm sure a lot of people like yourselves enjoy working with him, because this is quite rare to find a business where some of these don't exist when it comes to optimization. And then just kind of building on that, what I've seen over the last 3 or 4 years in conversion optimization is what I've kind of talked recently about is the butterfly effect in conversion optimization. And this all starts with a general lack of understanding of optimization. That optimization is just a tactic, it's just tweaking websites, exactly what Jeffrey's describing about there.
Sorry, Paul, can you keep the microphone a bit higher up so at the back they can't hear you very well?
Sorry about that. Sorry, yeah. Optimization being misunderstood. It is then that can often lead on to then it's just underappreciated. And when things are underappreciated, then there's typically going to be a lack of investment and a lack of human investment in optimization. If we don't have investment in people, then we're not really going to be investing in user research. And then this kind of carries on building and building. So if there's no real user research and customer understanding, then there's a lack of intelligence behind the optimization. And then often there's a lack of integrity behind the test results. And I think, sensationalist headlines of big test results, this happens time and time again, and you just need to search online and look at case studies. There's a genuine lack of integrity amongst many A/B testing case studies. Therefore, that leads on to a lack of learnings because we're not running intelligent tests, we're not getting valuable learnings. So there's no real value that's coming from the efforts of optimization within some businesses. And then, so that leads to little or no impact. And obviously, when there's little or no impact in something, then it can lead to a loss of faith. And I think this kind of cycle is what probably quite a few companies have kind of been through over the last few years, or you might be struggling in one of these areas within your business. And it's a crying shame, for want of a better phrase, that optimization is so often misunderstood, and then it leads to a spiral of this isn't going to be turned into anything like business optimization. So the Lightbulb moment is that we're not just optimizing for revenues and for conversion. We're introducing a mindset change within a business so that the business truly embraces the concept of experimentation and also the fundamentals around becoming a customer-centric business. These are two core things that ultimately conversion optimization should be here to do for businesses. But the challenge we all have with this is that it is incredibly complex to bring about this mindset change within a company. There's no getting away from it. There's no single thing that we can do that will transform a company's mindset to bring in experimentation and customer centricity. There's no guidelines, there's no real structure or framework, there's no real way to kind of measure the improvements that you're making to the business. Obviously we can measure performance metrics, but measuring the improvements across a business, there isn't anything there. And there's no way to benchmark your business. Now for us at PRWD 4 years ago, this is where we were, because there was no way to do these things. And this led us to develop the maturity model, which will, as I mentioned, will be the kind of core structure for the rest of the talk. And here is the maturity model. This is the 4 pillars of conversion optimization maturity. And I think strategy and culture is so often the thing that's probably the least developed or the least mature within businesses, but it's hugely influential, because if you don't have the strategy and the culture in place, or you're not working on that, then it's going to really affect the rest of these other areas, which is more about people and skills and processes. And then there's 5 levels of maturity to the maturity model. This isn't just yes or no answers. There's a range of ways you can mature your business across many different areas. So this isn't just you're either doing something not well versus really well. And so the actual maturity model itself, you can go to this link at any time now, and you can just get a downloadable link to the maturity model. This is a visualization of the maturity model. And these are the 21 assessment points of the maturity model. And I think the reason why I've just got this on a slide separate to trying to look at the visual and trying to tilt your head around on the previous slide is that this just underlines how many things we need to think about within a business if we're to transform the mindset and the culture. There isn't just a few things around people or a few things around process. There's fundamental things about the strategy and culture and mindset and the customer centricity of an organisation. So during the rest of the talk, we'll be kind of going into some of these specific areas in Suntransfers and where they were and where they are 12 months later. So at this stage, I'm going to hand over to Nathan, and Nathan's going to kind of share where Suntransfers were just over 12 months ago.
Thanks, Paul. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, that's better. Okay, so as Paul said, we about 12 months ago, about 5 months after I joined Suntransfers, we sort of quickly recognised that we needed some help. I've been in the business since April 2016, and as I said, I came with the intention of really specialising in performance marketing, driving SEM, SEO, affiliate marketing, everything which I enjoyed doing, everything which I was good at, and then suddenly sort of dived into Google Analytics and worked out that our conversion rate from a new website was dropping about 20 to 25%. And I thought, shit, I've made the wrong decision here, and we're going to be in trouble. And quickly sort of tried to brush up on some CRO skills. Thought that we could solve it very easily just by using skill sets that we had in-house. Got A/B Tasty on board. It was nice and cheap. It looked like it would do a job. We didn't really have the development resource, but we didn't need development resource because the tools enabled us just to make the changes that we wanted to do on the fly with our marketing team. Job done. And obviously fell into pretty much every hole that everybody seems to do, which was it's not quite as easy as perhaps we thought. We had a list of around 200, 300 things that were wrong with our website, and we really didn't know where to start, which to focus on, and really how to solve it. So we quickly realised that we needed some help, and the next step for us was to go. We need a conversion rate optimization manager. That's the answer. Again, it quickly transpired that there was probably about 4 in the whole of Europe, or that was already doing this job, and certainly there wasn't any in Barcelona. And it became apparent that it was perhaps going to be a bit more of a problem. So basically, we spoke to PRWD and we worked on a plan about sort of how we move forward. And part of the maturity audit was for us to establish where we were. And I probably knew where we were at that point. It was in a particularly bad place, but we went through the process of establishing of where we were, and we were able to plot that against the industry average, and sort of no surprise, we weren't in a particularly great place. Perhaps the most important thing was that I understood that we needed to do something big, we needed to invest heavily in this, and also we were a small company. I'd spent sort of 10, 11 years working in a very large travel organization, thousands of people, multiple departments, UX teams, customer research teams, marketing teams, and trying to get CRO done in a company like that was very, very difficult. And even now, the company that I used to work for are still not doing the same, anywhere near the work that we're now starting to do. So actually getting buy-in from our organisation was really simple. It was perhaps one of the easiest conversations I've ever had, because we were able to put a proof of concept in place, able to get some numbers and start to look at, if we were able to do this, this is the return. So actually, from my experience, from a smaller company, if you're able to get the trust of the MD or the owners, in my case, it's quite an easy sell. But it's different for different companies. I appreciate that. As I said, we were just dabbling. We'd sort of got Hotjar and we'd got A/B Tasty, but in all honesty, we hadn't got a clue what we were doing. We were just recording sessions and looking at them and sharing them around the business. And it was great, but the question is, what the hell do you do with them? And we were using A/B Tasty to change click to action buttons, everything that we could do without using a developer. It was the classic case. From a people perspective, I've mentioned it before, we had a very small marketing team. We didn't have the skill sets. and they're not particularly easy to learn. At that time, we didn't have a UX team. We were just designing by sort of by committee, or the previous MD was really just making decisions. So we didn't have the skill sets in place, and this demonstrates really one of the reasons why we sort of needed to work with an agency at that point in time. We were heavily reliant on the support to do everything that we were unable to do at that point in time. We knew that we didn't want that to be the case moving forward, because we wanted to obviously take some of this responsibility ourselves, but we needed speed to do this. And I think perhaps the biggest change was we had ideas, we had the technology, but what we didn't have is any process, any way of being able to prioritize, any way of being able to sort of work through the hypothesis, what the results would be, and how we then turn that into actions. As I said, we had a list of 200 things which we needed to do, and we didn't really know how to go about it, how long each test should run for, whether we could run them concurrently, whether we should do A/B, whether we should do multivariant. So we just needed some support really to help us get through that process. So at that point, as I said, this was just over a year ago. What we really need was sort of these were our challenges. We needed speed to resolve these problems, because we didn't really have sort of 6 or 7 months to start recruiting. We had a very small team. We were a small team. I was used to working with a team of 15 marketers. I had about 7 people in total. We had a big development team, but the development team were really just doing traditional development and weren't really iterating on anything. There was a culture of senior management designing websites. This is what it needs to look like. This is what our customers think. Therefore, this is what it's going to do. And it had served them really well for a large period of time, but it was changing and our competition was getting stronger. So there's no experience of testing. I don't think there was any testing done sort of prior to a year ago. And lack of data. I can't tell you the state that Google Analytics was in. We were doing well to get a conversion rate out of it, and we had sort of 12, 13 different languages. So it was a complete nightmare, and this was one area where we had to get some help on. Our business did things. It was a relatively small business 5 years ago, and it was used to doing things on its own with little investment in agencies. So that was a challenge for us. And as I mentioned before, we had a list of 200 at least things that we needed to change, and we really didn't know where to start.
Just to add into that second, if you could just go back one stage a second. I think, so I'm not sure, some of you might be able to look at this list and relate to some of this, relate to some of the challenges. We did the hands up before around like lack of resource is one of the fundamental challenges within business. And so like we often see this early on in a client engagement, but just to refer back to the strategy and culture pillar of the maturity model and how the one standout area was the senior influential champion. So at this initial stage, Nathan, in his seniority position within the business, he's not running the business at this stage, but actually championing and kind of bringing this, like advocating this experimentation culture. That was a standout point from the strategy and culture pillar. That was so fundamental in how within 12 months, the journey that we've been on was driven by having someone so influential, so senior, that's got such a positive influence on the chief executive, but then also the team below that. So it really does underline the importance of the senior management buy-in as high up in the organisation as you can get it. So yeah, I'll just kind of pick up on some of this. So we kind of knew there was going to be big challenges at the very start. We knew that the business was at a very low level of maturity. And so we needed to start to bring in ways to kind of engage the wider team, to bring the voice of the customer into the business. We needed to get buy-in from the development team. So again, often when it comes to like development and IT, what the testing tools used to sell us 3 or 4 years ago is that you don't need your development team. Just ask them to put one line of JavaScript on your header file and then leave the developers to it. And then we'll just get on with the marketing team. We'll get on with running the experiments. And that is completely not the right way to do it. So We did, in the first few months, we did in-depth one-to-one user research, which provided a really rich form of powerful insight that really underlined the kind of gaping holes within the experience, and the experience just wasn't truly customer-centric at that stage, and there was real big opportunities. That obviously led to helping the prioritization, because Suntransfers already knew they had many ways they wanted to optimize the website. In month 3, following on from Matt Lacey's talk this morning, the whole thing around creativity and ideation and collaborating with people and bringing people in month 3, we did collaborative sketching and ideation with a wide group of people from across Suntransfers. So that really brought the engagement, it brought ideas, it brought awareness of optimization. I've mentioned about number 3, engaging with the CTO. That was one of the very early things that we did. This wasn't going to be a them and us. We got the development buy-in as soon as we could. And this isn't just front-end development either. As soon as any of us want to do advanced testing and strategic testing, you often can't do that just through the testing tool. However much hand coding you do, you need your back-end full-stack developers to be able to help build and implement the bigger, more bolder strategic tests. We had Hotjar. I think Hotjar might have been mentioned once or twice today already. If you're not using it already, it's one of the most valuable and cost-effective user research tools that are out there. It's a phenomenal story as a business. Highly recommended. This gave us continuous feedback. So the customer centricity drive wasn't just from the one-to-one user research. We needed to have this continuous feedback loop from visitors coming to the website. One of the tests that we did through the program about halfway through was a really big innovative redesign of the mobile experience, the mobile search form, which is fundamental to the start of the user journey. And it was big, it was bold. We went through iterations, we went through creative sketching, we went through prototyping, but it was a real kind of game changer. And I think this, as one of the standout tests from my experience in the first 12 months, really got the business to sit up and listen and think like, wow, look at the impact we can have when we do something significant. It goes back to Jeffrey's talk, where this isn't just about tweaking things. We've got to be innovative. We've got to be bold with our ideas. And then number 6, communication and collaboration with customer services team, bringing them in the loop, ensuring that there's a feedback mechanism for the customer service team to feed into what we're doing in the online experience, and taking these frontline experiences from the customer service team and helping that fuel and prioritize test opportunities. And then I think this final part I think is really interesting, that rather than just developing an experimentation culture so that everything needs to be an experiment and the idea of test everything, that is a very dangerous trap to fall into, because unless you've got unlimited traffic, you can't test everything. But if you've got 200 things that you want to improve on the website, are you going to spend the next 5 years testing each one of them ideas? No, we're going to have a stream of JDI changes, and that's something that Suntransfers really embraced. So even though we were doing iterative and strategic and innovative A/B tests, there was a continuous stream of JDI improvements. It was like a health check of just continually improving the experience. So these were some of the key activities that we brought into the business that really helped to kind of fuel the growth and really started to kind of change the mindset within Suntransfers. And this is the winning variation of the mobile redesign test, which delivered a 14% increase in transactions. Not just some sensationalist headline that was just in the test period. This was validated post-implementation as well. So this was one of the real concrete and standout kind of test wins in the first 12 months. And then, yeah, Nathan, do you want to pick up on some of this?
Yeah, I mean, when we first engaged with this whole process, we were simply focused on improving our conversion rate because we had a massive issue. But I think it's actually evolved into changing what we do. So as a business, we also have a large customer service team. So we have 70 people in a customer service team. And we were growing our business through traffic growth, through changing in our conversion rate. But we were struggling to handle everything that was going through the customer service team. So what we were trying to do was trying to look for use the same model that we were using in improving our conversion rate into everything that we were doing. So applying a testing model. So we were looking at trying to test our live chat and put that through an A/B through a testing process. We were looking at how we improve our my booking section in exactly the same way that we were trying to sort of focus on the conversion rate. So in essence, our CRO team just became sort of a customer-centric team. There was no CRO individual. It was just a team of people making the website better using data, which in essence is really how things should work. And I think really the other big change was the business started to work more collaboratively. We built a microsite which allowed us to demonstrate all of the experiments, so the whole business could see on a day-to-day basis what was happening in the company. They could see the winning variations. The customer service team knew what was going to happen if there was 3 or 4 variations, what the changes were going to be. Obviously, part of that was to demonstrate that the team were doing a great job, but also to sort of get continued buy-in, because we had a development team of sort of 11, 12 people, and historically they were just doing development, supporting the whole admin and back-end functions. And within the space of around 4 months, 30 to 40% of the development resource was spent on conversion rate optimization. That obviously comes at a cost, opportunity cost and a real cost. So it was really important that we continue to share the sort of the news, or share what was going on within the wider team. And it's changed, it's fundamentally, without sort of overstating, it's changed the way we work. We're doing things. It's not, we're not at the booking.com stage or even AO.com stage or any of these sort of, guys. We'll talk about where we are in the maturity model. We still got a long way to go. But in terms of where we were sort of 8 or 9 months ago as a business, and in terms of CRO, it's completely changed how we think as a business, and continue to try and work through things rather than just building something and just leaving it. And that's pretty much how the business used to operate. I think the other thing that sort of touched upon was the type of experiments. I think it was really important for us from an early stage that I think someone mentioned earlier on some quick wins. It was important actually that within the first 3 months that we could demonstrate that the money we were spending and the time and resource that we're investing internally was having an impact. And I know it's fine to say there's no such thing as a bad experiment because we all learn. That's fine, but the reality is we needed a positive experiment which showed an ROI, and very quickly we were able to demonstrate a couple of things with an ROI that made us continue to invest and put more resource into this space, and that's why we're sort of doing loads in this area now, whereas 6 months ago we were just dabbling.
Then I'll just come in just at the end. There. So the next to final point, the rapid pace of change. I've got to be frank about this. Of all the businesses that we've worked with over the last 5 years, Suntransfers has demonstrated the best, most positive agility that I've experienced, and that really has driven the kind of the momentum and why we've achieved so much in 12 months. And then just the final point, that inquisitive nature, it was kind of really refreshing to have that open-mindedness within Suntransfers and from myself and the team at PRWD to really question things that have been the norm. Like they've not been experimenting for the first 4 years of business, but in the last 12 months, it's really developed this inquisitive, experimental nature, and it was through being open-minded, and a lot of that's driven from the chief executive that I've spent time with. Like the very nature of Marianne is inquisitive in nature and looking ahead and long-term planning, creative innovation, and that just emanates through the whole business. So yeah, some of the key ingredients. And then just very briefly, I'm not going to stay too long on this, but I think just the client-agency partnership. So all of you are either kind of agency side or client side. There might be some individual consultants, but these are what have been the cornerstones of the relationship, the agency relationship that we've had with Suntransfers. And yeah, if we could know right at the very start of a relationship that this is what we're going to be describing it as in 12 months, then we'd be ready to kind of sign that client on the dotted line, because this, for everyone involved, the whole thing around mutual respect and being trusted and there being empathy and humility, these are absolutely crucial, and these have really helped to fuel the partnership and this striving towards more business optimization. So yeah, I'll just pick this up initially. So we've got KPI impact. So we're talking about all this maturity, we're talking about how far they've come and the mindset change, but ultimately, how's this affecting their performance metrics? Well, some of the key metrics are here, and specifically funnel abandonment rate is significantly reduced. And so this isn't just taking A/B tests in isolation, this is looking at analytics over a long sustained period to look at what's the actual commercial impact that we're having on the key performance metrics. And then I think I'll pass over to Nathan on the next slide, because this is a very interesting one just around the traffic growth, the incredible traffic growth that Suntransfers have had. And effectively, from a conversion point of view, it was around the biggest challenge we had was arresting the conversion rate decline. So I think, Nathan, I'll let you pick up.
Hopefully the graph sort of speaks for itself. When we first started on this sort of project, we were around minus 25% conversion rate, which it's not a great place to be, as I said earlier on. And some of that was driven from increasing traffic, some of it was driven from shift from desktop to mobile, and never really being particularly focused on mobile, which is again not a great strategy to have. Where we are today, we're actually seeing starting to see some conversion rate growth, which is quite incredible, really, given that we are seeing traffic growth around 70%, and it's around 100% plus in mobile. So, I mean, we obviously had a business case for the investment in CRO, both from an agency point of view and also from internal. And we're way ahead of where we expected to be. But going back to sort of getting senior buy-in, and whether that's with sort of MD or commercial director or digital director, whoever that may be, I think this is perhaps where I've spent a lot of time, both reassuring myself and reassuring the owners of the business that spending time and money in this area is critical by using sort of ongoing data almost on a quarterly basis to demonstrate that what we're doing is the right thing at a high level, but also on a test level. We make sure that we share with the business each big iterative test, so we can show what the uplift is. If we were then to extrapolate that over the course of 12 months, what's the impact going to be on the business? Of course, it's not scientific, but it's good enough for us to get an idea about this is the right thing for us to do. So, obviously, from a business point of view, this justifies what we're doing with the continued traffic growth and being able to arrest the conversion decline. And this just sort of supports where we are as a business. So we're a relatively small business, but we're growing fast, and I think this is part of our business maturity about trying to invest in things like this. Which, there's people in this room who are going to been doing stuff like this for a couple of years. I think this is just from us going from sort of 0 to 60 in a couple of seconds, really, and trying to play catch up. So very quickly. This is the part of the maturity audit which Paul and his team did sort of relatively recently, which is to say, okay, a year on, where are we and what do we need to work on? And I think obviously the key part for a year on is the key takeout really is core business strategy, whereas I would argue that CRO was probably a word that nobody in our business had even heard of a year ago. It's probably the first or the second topic within the board discussion every single month. It's the biggest line item in our development roadmap. So it's fundamental to what we do, and it's in our growth plans. This is how we're going to grow the business through traffic and CRO. And also sort of where we are, we have an internal champion, both with myself, but also everyone is now an advocate of doing what we're doing, and they buy into it. So the development team aren't pushing back on things. They believe in this, and they're doing their own work in terms of making a website faster, and they're using the same sort of thinking and hypothesis that we're using to invest in these spaces. From a tool point of view, we've obviously made progress. We've gone from sort of aspiring, and the way I described to Paul as aspiring, my definition of aspiring is, we know we need to do it, but we haven't got a clue really how to do it. And I think for us, we've moved quite a long way in each of these areas. I think from a tool and technology point of view, we're still using the same tools that we were using prior to this sort of this project. So we're still using A/B Tasty, we're still using Hotjar, and I think obviously I was keen to sort of maybe move on or start exploring tools like Maximizer, Optimizely, and start to move on to enterprise tools. But the reality is, we're probably not in that place. We're getting good value from the tools that we're using, and we're more than happy to keep using those. I think the big thing for us is the investment in time and effort into analytics. Analytics is at the heart of everything that we do. So we feed all our data into GA from A/B Tasty, and we're now thankfully in a position where I think nearly every action is labelled up within GA. As I said, going back a year, I could barely tell you the conversion rate when I first joined. So we've moved on a hell of a lot. And again, as a skill set, that's one of it's such a hard thing for us to get is support for GA, because it's a really rare skill.
Just quickly to come in there. So you might be wondering, you might be looking at this and thinking, Nathan's been talking there about Google Analytics. It's in a far better place, better configuration, much better granularity. So you might be looking there thinking, well, excuse me, why is the maturity level just at kind of 60%? Why is it just kind of 3 levels across the 5 levels of maturity? And I think this is 2 things. One is the maturity model, which you'll be able to get a copy of at the end of this or download it. It isn't some easy model. It's not like you can do this for a year or 2 and you'll all be at strategic or transformative. This is quite a long-term kind of model for kind of optimizing the business. And this just highlights it that we as an agency know we've got a way to go from an analytics point of view. There's still more we can add in. There's a better richness of data modeling that we can do. So even though we're in a lot better place now, there's still a long way to go, and it just underlines the critical importance of data and getting that configuration right.
One of the bigger changes for us is how we've matured with people and the skills. I mentioned before that when I started, we didn't really have the skill sets. Strangely, we have the same people that we had a year ago in place. We just appointed a UX manager or a UX lead. I converted my performance marketing manager into a CRO manager. And within 6 months, she was able to pull this together. And I think going back to the discussion early on around, is it possible to have a CRO manager that does everything? The answer for me is no. This is more of a CRO manager that coordinates, pulls things together, makes things work across departments, liaises with the agency, with the development team, with the UX guys, with the data analytics manager, and that's a pivotal role. So I think over the last 12 months, we've matured in that space and been able to work more collaboratively as a team. And the department spend a lot of time reading about what's going on. They were going to come here today, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. So I think as a team, without investing any more in the people, we've just pointed them in the right direction and given them some training, and they've had the confidence with the results that we've seen to sort of go on and develop that. We can see where we were a year ago, and because we needed speed, we were heavily reliant on the support from Paul's agency to deliver this. I think when we first started, we were, as I said, I think we were maybe bought into the fact that we could do everything ourselves. When we first started, we wanted to be able to use the testing tool and be able to change everything. Then we went full circle and said, look, Paul, we haven't got a clue what we're doing, help us. And we were able to to do that. I think in the last 3-4 months, what we're really trying to do is to take on some of the responsibility of the agency so we can do some of the more basic stuff, empowering the agency to really move us into the business optimization. I mentioned earlier on that we've started off with trying to solve the conversion rate problem, but probably the focus for the last 3 to 4 months has been around solving some of the business issues. As I said, we can't grow our customer service team. We have a small office in the Costa Brava of about 70 people. We physically can't get any more people to work there that speak 4 languages. It doesn't work, so we need to reduce that customer service team. And we've been spending a lot of time testing different AI chat tools looking at Help Centre, looking at the My Booking, everything to reduce the manual interaction. All of that has been done using the same sort of processes as we've done for conversion rate. So we haven't solved the conversion rate issue. We want to keep improving that. We know we can't stand still, but as a business, we've just applied the same thinking to business optimization. And this is really reflected in what we're trying to do by taking some of the slack from the agency and invest that better and get more strategic support from Paul and his team. So I think this is probably the thing that I think we've made the most improvement on in the last 6 to 9 months. As I said, we had plenty of ideas. We had access to the technology, but we didn't have the data skill sets. We didn't have the understanding about how often should you run a test for. Can you take the results out of A/B Tasty and build your business around the results that are out of there? I thought you could. Clearly, you can't. What's the difference between a Bayesian model and this? I mean, I got a B in GCSE maths. I wasn't the right person to be making these decisions. So we were sort of reliant on putting these processes in place. And I think the thinking that we've learned over the last 6 months has been immense in terms of trying to prioritize it. What's the hypothesis? When you should do it? When you should just get it in as a JDI? When you should run an experiment? So I think that has helped us enormously, and I think that for me is probably the biggest part of this whole process is getting the thinking, getting the logic in place. We were able to do that with an agency. It made us move faster. But I think once you've got that in place, it just helps the whole process and helps you make decisions a lot quicker.
This is just a summary of the different areas of optimization we're now looking at with Suntransfers that started 3 or 4 months ago, and it's heading into 2018. And there's no mention there of conversion because this is where it's now got within Suntransfers on a much broader level. This is optimizing the business in many different areas. So I don't know if this is a definition of business optimization, if this is a definition of where you and your businesses will get to and your clients over the next 5 years, then I think it's a very good place to be. And I'm grateful that we've managed to get to this kind of place within 12 months. And then, so just finally, the potential of conversion optimization. I talked about the definition at the start. The conversion optimization has the potential to establish a mindset change, a mindset within your business and your clients' businesses for customer centricity and experimentation, which will then fuel experimentation, innovation, long-term thinking, and kind of going down the path of brands like Amazon that at one stage in their lifetime were exactly the same size as your business is today. So finally, the 5 tips on the path from conversion optimization to business optimization. Firstly, here's a link again to download the maturity model. You just need to put your name and email address in and you'll get a link directly to it. I do also have printed copies of the maturity model. So full in-depth kind of analysis and understanding of the actual model itself for your business. So we're on a break now after this. Apologies we've overrun. If anyone would like to come up just to get a printed copy, you're welcome to come up at the end. From getting the maturity model, you can audit your business with a free online tool that takes about 10 to 15 minutes to kind of understand where you are and where you are. Number 3, you can benchmark your business because there's benchmarking data within the maturity model brochure. And then you can start identifying the biggest improvement areas, which could well be in strategy and culture, could well be in people and skills. So there's so many things to look at within the model. And then hopefully you'll all be continuing to mature your approach to conversion optimization through understanding where you are on the maturity model, but also by learning and taking such richness of insight from today and the rest of the speakers. So I hope that has been interesting, and thank you.